Following Jesus is a beautiful choice, but also a challenging one. Many speak of faith as something light, easy, and full of visible blessings. But few mention the cost that this surrender demands. It's not out of malice. It's because this truth is frightening. After all, who is ready to give up themselves for something greater that cannot be seen? The chosen ones know that this calling is not made of empty promises. Jesus never sold ease. He was straightforward. Whoever wants to follow me must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. There is no comfortable version of this invitation. There is renunciation. There is confrontation. There is a daily decision. And that is why few continue, even after saying yes. The daily cross is not a pretty symbol. It is a real weight. It is the pride that needs to die. It is the ego that needs to yield. It is the heart that needs to trust, even when it doesn't understand. Those who are chosen feel this. They feel the pressure of renunciation, the silence of prayers, the pain of losses. And even so, they continue. This path is not for those who seek applause, but for those who desire to be transformed. It is lonely at times, misunderstood on most days. But it is also where character is shaped, where faith matures, where the presence of God becomes more real than any comfort. Following Jesus is not about religion. It's about surrender. My name is George, and if you're here, maybe you've also been called to this surrender. On the channel Voz no Silencio, we talk about real discipleship, the kind that costs but transforms. If this message spoke to you, follow the channel and walk with us on this honest journey. Because following Jesus may hurt, but it's worth every step. The path of the chosen, when the truth weighs more than the promise. Following Jesus is a decision that few are truly ready to make. And this is not a judgment, it's a fact. In times when faith is often treated like a product, promising instant solutions, visible blessings, and emotional comfort, the truth of the gospel seems too harsh to be accepted by everyone. Jesus never attracted crowds with messages of ease. From the beginning, he was direct. If anyone wants to come after me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. There's no disguise in these words. They were not spoken to please or gain followers, but to show the real cost of walking with him. The cross that Jesus mentions is not symbolic in the modern sense. It represents real surrender, a daily yielding. It speaks of giving up one's own will, personal desires, plans that don't align with heaven. Still, many prefer to hear only about miracles, blessings, and victories, and walk away when they discover that losses come too. And why? Because we want comfort without confrontation. We desire grace, but not obedience. We want a Jesus who saves us from suffering, but not one who invites us to die to the ego. We want a path that transforms others' lives, but preserves our comfort zone. But the true chosen know. There is no authentic faith without renunciation. Christ's call is not for those who want applause, but for those seeking transformation. He invites us to walk a narrow path, not because he wants to punish us, but because he knows it is there that our hearts align with his. The chosen learn this in practice. They learn that the cross is not the end, but the beginning. That renunciation is not loss, but protection. That obedience is not imprisonment, it is freedom. And even when they don't see immediate results, they remain. Because they were not called to comfort, they were called to the kingdom. Discipleship begins in the heart. And no one can see this beginning, but the fruits appear over time. And it is these fruits that reveal who is truly walking with Jesus. If you feel you're paying a high price to follow Jesus, take a deep breath. It may be that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, on the narrow but eternal path, the silence of the cross, where the surrender of the chosen begins. There comes a moment in the walk with Jesus when silence weighs more than the noise of the world. It's when you realize that following the Master goes far beyond beautiful words or ready-made phrases. True discipleship happens in those invisible areas of the soul where no one sees, but everything is decided. Following Jesus has a price because he never called anyone to stay on the surface. He called them to dive deep. And in that dive, the first thing that is lost is control. Faith requires surrender, and surrender requires trust. But trusting God when nothing seems to make sense is one of the most challenging experiences for any human heart. Many want to follow Jesus, but without giving up control. They want to hear his voice, but only if it confirms their own plans. They want miracles, but not change. But the chosen know, it's not about adjusting Jesus to our ways, but adjusting our ways to his will. The cross Jesus invites us to carry is not a poetic metaphor. It's real. It represents everything we need to let die so that true life may be born. Pride, ego, independence, fear, vanity, desire for control, all of it must be laid at the foot of the cross, not to please God as if he demands sacrifice, but to free us from everything that binds us. The chosen, over time, learn to deal with silence. When answers are delayed, when the road narrows, when the heart bleeds, they learn to trust. They learn to strengthen themselves in what doesn't change, God's faithfulness. Because even when everything changes around them, he remains the same. And in that silence, something deep happens. The heart begins to be shaped. Faith stops being theory and becomes foundation. Trust stops being speech and becomes sustenance. And slowly, even without realizing it, you start becoming more like Jesus. And that is the true miracle. Discipleship is not about being perfect. It's about remaining. It's about getting up even when you fall. It's about continuing to love, even when it's easier to give up. It's about obeying even without applause. Because the chosen don't walk for visible rewards. They walk out of love. You may not understand everything that's happening right now, but if you are obeying, you're on the right path. Because the cross that weighs today prepares the heart to carry the glory that will come later. And in the end, you will realize it was all worth it. Because following Jesus is costly, yes, but it's the only path that's worth everything. When following Jesus becomes a lonely path. At some point in the journey, the disciple realizes following Jesus can mean walking paths that few will understand. And that hurts, because spiritual loneliness is real. It doesn't come from the absence of people, but from a lack of understanding. It's the kind of loneliness only those who've been called truly know. The price of following Jesus begins to appear when your decisions start to seem strange to others. When you choose to forgive, and everyone around says you should retaliate. When you choose to wait, and the world demands haste. When you prefer the silence of prayer over the noise of opinions. In that moment, you realize you're no longer the same. Your values have changed. Your priorities have changed. Your heart now responds to a voice many don't hear. And this separates you, not out of arrogance, but out of obedience. You don't feel superior, you just know you can't go back. Jesus was rejected. He was questioned, betrayed, abandoned, and he said that those who follow him would go through similar situations. Not as punishment, but as a consequence of living true faith in a world that prefers appearances. When rejection comes, when ties are broken, when misunderstanding weighs, remember, you are not alone. There are others also paying this price. A generation of chosen ones who, though scattered around the world, are united by the same flame, the desire to follow Jesus to the end. This journey isn't about being strong all the time. It's about continuing even when you're weak. It's about leaning on grace when strength runs out. It's about trusting that God sees, even when no one else understands. And He sees. Nothing you surrender out of love for Christ is wasted. No tear of obedience is ignored. No silent yes goes unnoticed in heaven. God honors those who remain faithful, even when the price is high. Yes, there are moments when following Jesus seems like losing everything. But in truth, it is in that losing that you find what truly matters. Peace that the world cannot give. Purpose that doesn't depend on circumstances. Love that doesn't need to be earned. Maybe you're at that point now, feeling alone, tired, misunderstood. But don't give up, because the path of the cross always passes through pain, but never ends there. And in the end, what seemed like loss will be revealed as deliverance, and what seemed like loneliness was preparation. Stay strong. Today's loneliness is the soil where God is planting the strength you'll need tomorrow. The cross is not punishment, it's a calling. When Jesus said that His disciples must take up their own cross and follow Him, He wasn't being symbolic in a superficial sense. He was revealing a spiritual reality that few are willing to live, accepting that the Christian life involves renunciation, pain, and perseverance. Not because God desires suffering, but because the cross is the path of transformation. The cross Jesus speaks of is not a trinket hanging around your neck. It's a daily posture. It's giving up control, personal plans, and the need for approval. It's saying no to a world constantly trying to shape you into its image. The cross is not punishment. It's a calling to die to what keeps you from living in purpose. And it is costly. Carrying the cross is not about seeking suffering, but it is accepting that, to truly follow Jesus, some burdens must be left behind. And often, those burdens are things we love: pride, reason, self-will. The cross confronts all of that. Many want to follow Jesus, but don't want to die to themselves. They want the Christ who heals, but not the one who calls to sacrifice. They want miracles, but not the process. They want blessings, but not discipline. Yet true discipleship goes through the cross, and whoever is not willing to carry it won't follow for long. Following Jesus sincerely won't spare you from pain, but it will give you meaning within it. The cross is heavy, yes, but it also reveals. It reveals how deep your faith is rooted. It reveals who's with you. It reveals how much you trust the unseen. The world tries to convince us that any pain means something is wrong. But often, pain is just a sign that something is being healed. The ego is being broken. The flesh is being subdued. The spirit is being strengthened. And this process is not pretty to watch, but it is precious, because it's in it that the true chosen are born. Those who follow even when they don't understand. Those who obey even when it hurts. Those who remain even when the cross seems bigger than their strength. If you're in that moment, take a deep breath. God knows your burden. He hasn't abandoned you. The cross you carry today will not be in vain. It's forming something in you that words can't explain, but all of heaven recognizes. Continue, not because it's easy, but because it's true. When following Jesus makes you seem strange, there comes a moment in the walk with Christ when you begin to realize you are different, not just on the outside, but on the inside. The conversations that once interested you now tire you. The places that once attracted you now make you uneasy, and the decisions you make often don't make sense to those around you. It's as if your soul is on a different frequency. And this has a name: separation. God begins to set you apart for a greater purpose. And this separation, although necessary, hurts. Because following Jesus seriously will make you seem strange, extreme, radical. But not because your personality changed. It's because you are aligning yourself with heaven. The truth is that the kingdom of God has always been a scandal to the world system. And when you start living according to the values of the kingdom, you automatically stop fitting into certain environments. Your way of thinking disturbs. Your posture provokes. Your presence exposes what's out of place. That's the price. It's the price of living a faith that does not bow to convenience. The price of having a heart that prefers to obey than to please. The price of saying no when everything around says yes. Being chosen is not about being special. It's about being set apart. And that brings a kind of loneliness that only those who live it can understand. A process that takes you away from the common to bring you closer to the eternal. A process that exchanges people's approval for God's approval. That trades the applause of the crowd for peace in the spirit. That delivers you from everything that steals your intimacy with the Father. You may be feeling out of place. You may have even wondered if something is wrong with you. But know this. That feeling is a sign that God is shaping you. He is pulling you away from what contaminates to draw you near to what sanctifies. And this process, although lonely, is precious. Jesus went through it. He was rejected by his own, misunderstood, ridiculed, and he said that for his disciples, it would be no different. The world loves what is its own, but rejects what does not conform to it. That's why, when you feel like you don't fit, remember, it's because you no longer belong to the system of this world. You were called for something greater. Your life has a mission. Your behavior is a testimony. Your choices are seeds. And even when everything feels strange, keep going. Because what seems like foolishness to the world is wisdom before God. What you feel is not isolation, it's consecration. The value of what is not seen. Following Jesus is walking with your eyes fixed on something that is not always visible. While the world lives for immediate results, for tangible rewards, for human recognition, the chosen are called to live by faith, even when everything around seems to say otherwise. This is one of the most challenging parts of discipleship. To human eyes, many things seem like loss. Giving up an opportunity because it distances you from your integrity. Saying no to a relationship because it compromises your communion with God. Choosing to serve when everyone else prefers to be served. All of this seems like madness. But to heaven's eyes, every such choice carries eternal value. The world values what shines on the outside. Jesus values what aligns on the inside. And this difference in values is what makes the path narrow. Because everything that is eternal begins invisibly. Faith, hope, inner transformation. All of it happens first, in the secret place, in silence, in the hidden depths of the soul. It is in that invisible space that discipleship is built. And that's why many get lost, because they expect fast, visible, instant rewards. But the kingdom of God has a different rhythm. It works in process, in depth, in due time. Jesus' call is not for those in a hurry, but for those who are thirsty. And that thirst is what moves the chosen. They follow even without seeing. They remain even without feeling. They trust even without understanding. Because they know that something greater is being formed. They know there is a purpose in every renunciation. A meaning in every wait, a reward that goes far beyond the now. Jesus never promised applause, he promised presence. And that, for those who truly know him, is enough. Because there is no greater reward than knowing you are walking in the center of God's will. Even if that costs comfort, recognition, or even the approval of those you love. And this transformation doesn't come from an impactful church service or a powerful prayer. It comes from daily life, from simple choices, from the yeses given to God when no one is watching. It is there that the kingdom grows inside you. It is there that you stop being just someone who believes and become someone who lives what they believe. Maybe you still don't see the fruits, but keep going, because what is being planted now will bloom at the right time. And when that happens, you will understand that no renunciation was a loss. They were all seeds. You were called to live by faith. And faith is this: walking with conviction even when you see nothing around you. That is the mark of the chosen. The decision that changes everything. After everything that's been said, one silent but powerful question remains. Are you truly willing to follow Jesus? Not with part of your heart, not only in the good moments, not only when everything makes sense, but with total surrender, even when the road narrows and the cost feels high. Because that's what defines a chosen one. It's not a beautiful speech. It's not biblical knowledge. It's not spiritual appearance. It's the inner decision to remain faithful when everything around tells you to give up. Being chosen is hearing the call and responding sincerely, even while trembling inside. It's saying yes with your whole heart. Jesus never forced anyone to follow him, but he made it clear. Whoever wants to come after me, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. This is not a pretty phrase. It's a life direction. And every chosen one, sooner or later, must decide whether they are truly willing to live it. Following Jesus is more than a belief. It's a stance. It's waking up every day willing to obey, even without guarantees. It's facing breakups, losses, and discomforts for something greater. It's giving up easier paths for the sake of faithfulness. It's saying no to the world to say yes to heaven. Many started, few remain. Many got excited, few committed. Many raised their hands in worship. Few carry the cross in daily life. And that's what differentiates the crowd from the disciple. That's what separates the curious from the chosen. And you? Will you just listen? Or will you decide? Will you just admire Jesus, or will you follow him? Will you keep waiting for perfect conditions, or will you obey even in the middle of chaos? The choice is yours. But know this, every decision for Christ is answered by heaven. Maybe following Jesus is costing more than you imagined. Maybe it has hurt. Maybe it has brought loss. Maybe it has isolated you. But don't give up. That's a sign that you are on the right path. Because shortcuts don't produce transformation. Only the narrow path forms the chosen. If today you feel alone on this journey, remember, a generation is awakening. People like you, who have chosen to live with purpose, even paying the price. People who traded popularity for depth, appearance for essence, recognition for obedience. This is the generation of the chosen, and you are part of it. Now that we've come this far, I want to invite you to reflect sincerely. What has following Jesus cost you? Write it in the comments. Your response may touch someone who is at the exact same point in the journey and needs strength to keep going. If this message spoke to you, like this video and share it with someone who has also been called to live this truth. And if you want to stand firm with a deep and real faith, subscribe to the channel Voz no Silencio. Here, we don't hide the cost, but we walk together with the one who is worth more than everything. Following Jesus will always be a choice that goes against the natural flow of the world. Not because God desires our pain, but because his path demands something many are not willing to give: control. Jesus didn't call us to a light gospel, molded to our wants, but to a journey where the cross comes before the crown. The true chosen understand this. They know they were not called to the crowd, but to purpose. They know discipleship is costly. It costs friends, relationships, opportunities, recognition, and sometimes even momentary peace. But at the same time, this surrender makes room for something much greater: intimacy with God, clarity of identity, and the certainty of living for something eternal. It's not easy. It never was. Jesus made that clear from the beginning. He never misled anyone with promises of easy paths. He spoke of persecutions, rejection, loneliness. But he also promised something no other thing in the world can offer: his constant presence. And that's what sustains the chosen when everything else seems to fail. The path of renunciation is not for those seeking applause. It's for those who want to be shaped. It's for those who accept the process. It's for those who choose to stay when everything else invites abandonment. And it is those who, in the end, will experience the glory that is only revealed to those who went through the cross with faithfulness. Being chosen doesn't mean being perfect, but being faithful. It doesn't mean never falling, but always getting back up. It doesn't mean having all the answers, but continuing to trust, even in silence. The chosen know that the glory of God is not in what the world values, but in what heaven recognizes. And that's what I invite you to remember now. Maybe you're tired, misunderstood, feeling alone. But if you are choosing to obey, even without seeing results, if you are choosing to remain, even when everything tells you to stop, then yes, you are on the right path. Because this is the path of the few, the path of the chosen. The reward will not only be what God will do for you, but what He is forming in you. Every renunciation is a seed, every tear a watering, every obedient silence a deepening root, and all of it, in due time, will bear fruit. Because God never overlooks those who walk with Him, even when no one else sees. Now I want to invite you to take part. Write in the comments, what has been the greatest price you've paid for following Jesus? Your experience might be the answer someone needs to read today. Let's walk together as a generation of the chosen, strengthening one another on the path of the cross.